All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our HB 101 HoneyBook orientation today. My name is Marika. I am on the product education team here at HoneyBook. Okie doke, agenda for the day. So we know what we're going to be touching on. We're going to start with just some basic dashboard navigation. This is HB 101 after all. So we're assuming you guys are probably a little newer to the system. We want to make sure that you know what you're looking at and where to get to where you want to go within the product. We will then talk about projects in HoneyBook, what they are, and how they move through what we call our project pipeline. So we'll look at that. We will, of course, also look at files in HoneyBook. Those are the kinds of documents that you're able to send to your clients through the platform. So we'll look at what kind of files are available to you to send, and then we'll actually go through creating a proposal together. Now, a proposal, in case you're unfamiliar, is basically just a combination of an invoice and a contract into one file. So you're going to get kind of a nice 3-for-1 tutorial as we go through creating a proposal together. We will, of course, also look at templates. Again, we'll talk about what they are, why they're really important and very, very helpful, and then we'll actually go through creating a couple templates together, such as a pricing package template and how to use that, an invoice template, and a contract template as well. And then we will finish with some just general account setup. Not as exciting, but very important. You know where to go to input your branding, your bank account information, your password, your preferences, all that good stuff. And then, like I said, we will hopefully have the last 5 to 10 minutes for any questions that you guys have posted along the way. Quick step back, though, since, again, I know a lot of you are going to be a little newer to HoneyBook. What is HoneyBook, after all? Well, HoneyBook is a business management platform that allows creative small businesses in particular to help manage their clients and projects kind of from first inquiry all the way through to completion, to final payment. So within that, that means you can send emails to your clients, you can track project progress, send contracts and get signatures, send invoices and get payments all the way through. So it kind of covers every base between that lead coming in and that project being completed. Other benefit of that is you don't need to bounce between a whole bunch of different systems to see all the stuff going into this project. Your emails are here, your payments are here, your contracts are here. You don't need to have Gmail open and PayPal open and DocuSign open. It is all going to be streamlined into one place for you instead. All right, all that said, I want to start going over what we got here. So what you're looking at right now is the HoneyBook dashboard. So this is kind of just where you land when you log into HoneyBook, and it gives you a nice overview of where everything in your account currently stands. So as you can see, we have a couple little tiles here. For example, your projects tile on the left-hand side here will show you maybe any new inquiries that have come in, new clients that you might want to attend to, or projects that have new activity. Anything going on in your calendar, events you have scheduled, tasks you have in your task list that are due, and then maybe stuff going on in your bookkeeping or your reporting section. All of these are links, so I can really quickly hop over to see anything that it is I want to see. You will also notice a teeny tiny little search icon up in the top left corner. This is very small, but it's very important. Instead of needing to sort through many, many long lists of projects and clients and files, I can just do a quick search for who I want to find, and I can pull up project or files or whatever I need to do. So you'll see this on most HoneyBook pages, and I can use that to do a quick search. Now, as with most tech platforms, when you see a profile picture, that is generally how you get to your settings. No different here. Your profile picture in the top right corner is how you're going to get to your personal account settings and your company settings. So as I mentioned, we will go through those at the end, but just want to point out how you get to it. And finally, the real fun begins with your top navigation bar up here. So home button brings you back to what you're looking at right now. Your projects tab brings you to your full list of projects in the context of your project pipeline. That is what we're going to look at right after this. Your contacts tab, as you might imagine, is where your contacts can be added and stored. I can add folks individually with my add new contact button. Or again, if you're newer to HoneyBook and maybe you already have a list of clients that you want to just get in there in one fell swoop, lucky for you, we have an upload CSV option and a template in which you can make sure that your formatting is correct and everything gets in there. Once your clients are in your contact list, I can search, I can filter in a few different ways, so I can find who I'm looking for really quickly. Quick plug too, you'll also notice this COVID-19 tab up here in your top navigation bar. Definitely check that out. It has a lot of resources. I know we're all many months into this now, and some states are coming out of it, which is awesome, and hopefully that continues. But it has a lot of great resources around kind of keeping your business rolling as all this is going on. So definitely check that out. And finally, your tools tab. Now there's a lot of stuff in here, and we're not going to go through all of it today because that would be like a 15-hour webinar. We are going to talk about templates, as I mentioned, but I encourage you guys to click through this and just see what's here, because this is where a lot of the sort of more advanced features of HoneyBook are going to be housed. So for example, from here, I can get to my bookkeeping and reporting to see some of the kind of numbers surrounding my business. Can look at my calendar, schedule meetings. Scheduling allows me to create kind of meeting templates that I can send out to my clients for them to quickly schedule meetings, my task list, my contact form, etc. Lots of stuff in here. Okay, hopefully now we have a decent grasp of what we're looking at in this dashboard, and I would like to dive a little deeper and actually get into what HoneyBook can do for you. And I want to start by talking about projects. So I'm going to head to our Projects tab up here from our top navigation bar. Now, what is a project? So that is kind of a broad, vague term in real life. In HoneyBook, what we mean when we say a project is basically just the container that holds everything related to a particular job with a particular client. Almost every piece of communication that you send through HoneyBook needs to go through a project. So it is kind of foundational to having that communication with your clients. So for example, I'm not able to actually send a file like an invoice or a contract without a project in place. So if someone like stops me on the street and says, hey, you look like a nice photographer, I'd like to book your services, I will say, great, how'd you know I was a photographer? That's weird. But also, what's your name and what's your email? And I will hop into HoneyBook and create a project for them. Then and only then can I begin those one-on-one communications and be able to send files to that client. Now, once you have lots of projects in place, which you inevitably will at some point, that is when this project pipeline is really going to come in handy. Because what this represents is basically just the life cycle of your projects. It gives you a bird's eye view of where all of your projects currently stand. So everything kind of starts in the inquiry stage, beginning stage, and pops all the way down through completed. Now, as we can see, this pipeline is made up of these sort of individual buckets. Each of these is what we call a project stage. So again, just where your project is in its life cycle. Now again, all projects will start as an inquiry, whether you create it yourself manually through HoneyBook, or maybe you have a contact form out in the wild somewhere, a potential client has submitted an inquiry and says, I'm interested in working with you. That project will all automatically be created in the inquiry stage as well. But the cool thing that HoneyBook does is we'll actually automatically move your project through these stages based on actions that you take or that your client takes. So for example, maybe I have a project in the inquiry stage. I want to hop in there and send them an email to kind of get the ball rolling. Great, I go ahead and do that. HoneyBook will automatically move that project to the follow-up stage. Then when I send a bookable file, like a proposal or a contract or an invoice, we'll automatically move it on down to the sent stage. And this will continue all the way through until I'm ready to manually move that project into completed. But we'll actually take care of a lot of that sort of automated movement for you, so you don't have to worry about assigning your projects to various stages. Now, you might also notice that there are a few set stages here. Maybe your business doesn't look exactly like this. Your business life cycle is a little bit different. That's okay too. We have this customize button. So clicking that allows me to add stages to these set stages. Now the guys you see here, you'll notice the little lock icon, they are locked. We do need those there, and we need them there because they're tied to those automations that I mentioned. So HoneyBook needs to know that there's a place to move a project in which you have just sent a proposal, for example. However, if you have additional stages that you want to add in here, I can do that. So maybe after the follow-up stage, I always know that I schedule a meeting. That's my next step with clients usually. All I need to do is click one of these add stage tiles, Give it a nice name. Use my 6-dot icon here. Whenever I see that in HoneyBook, it means I can click to drag and drop. And as you can see, I can kind of drop it on down into whatever position I need it to be, right after follow-up in this case. So once I save that, you will now see a brand new stage in your project pipeline, which I can manually move my projects into when they're ready to be in that stage. Okay, so now hopefully we understand the gist of what projects are and how they move through this pipeline. So I actually go through creating a project together with you so we can see sort of end to end what that looks like as well. Now, again, a project might come in automatically if you do have that contact form out in the wild somewhere, but if a project comes in any other way, you'll need to go through a process kind of similar to what we're about to do. So pay attention to this because it's important. So to create a new project, I'm going to click that plus button up there in the top right corner and select New Project. Now, it will prompt me through a couple different details that I need to add for this project. For example, the name. So maybe this guy, this is the Harvest Festival, spelled right would be great. And then it'll ask me what the project type is. So we see here kind of a list of broad categories that my business might fall into. You might be thinking, well, I don't really do birthday parties and corporate events. That's okay. I can create new project types for myself and my business to make sure that this list matches what I actually do. I'll also show you where to do this kind of on an individual basis, but if I need to add individual types, I can do that just with my Create New Project Type button. But for now, we'll select a project type, and I can also select a lead source. Now, this isn't required, but it's really a cool thing to start tracking because then you will notice in your actual reports section of HoneyBook, you can see what lead sources do the best and things like that, and kind of break things down by where your business is coming from. This is also a list that I can customize. I can create new lead sources and remove anything that's not relevant to myself. So definitely check that out and do start tracking if you know where stuff's coming in from. Then, of course, I can add things like, if there's an event date or a project date, I can throw that in. So I'm going to move this down onto October, a time associated with it, again, if it's an event, and go ahead and create my project. So now it is going to prompt me to add a participant to this project. The participant is basically just your client. Like, it's going to be the person who receives all of the communication you send through this project. So again, it will likely be your client, or at least this first one that you add here probably will be. You'll see that I can add additional participants down the line as well. So I'm going to add my client's name and email address. This automatically populated because she was already in my contact list, but if it's brand new, just throw it in there. Any other details that you have, feel free to add, and then click Add. And now, congrats to you, you have created a fully fledged project. And you're pulled into what we call the project workspace. This is really just where you work on this project, and your client can see a lot of this too. Not all of it, but a lot of it. If they open a file that you send them or open a client portal that you send them, they'll be able to see a lot of this stuff in here as well. So to that end, you're actually able to customize a lot of this. I can change the name of this project if I need, simply by clicking on the title up here in the top header. I can change this background image. Again, my client will see this just by clicking my little image icon there. So I can set this up to really match my brand. Now, a couple other things I want to point out about the workspace that are important. First of all, we have your activity tab here. This guy is where all of the communication that goes back and forth between you and your client is going to be tracked. So I never have to worry about losing an email or wondering if I sent that file. It will all be here. And I can actually even use this activity tab to just straight up send an email to my client. All I got to do for that is just click on that message box. Pops open an email composer, which you'll be fairly familiar with. This is not a foreign concept to most of you. I can just add a subject in here, add an email message, and then you'll notice a whole host of stuff I can do here at the bottom. First of all, this is the first instance of templates coming into play. We talked about them a little bit at the very beginning, but you'll see here a big long list of email templates. These are things that I have saved for myself in advance in my templates section that I can really quickly drop into projects moving forward. So for example, if I always know that my first email to a client when we start a relationship is like very similar every time, maybe not the exact same language, but the core of it is really, really similar, I can just select that email from my list of templates, again, that I've already saved, and drop that in. Then I can make any changes that I need specific to this client and this project without affecting that original template. That will always stay the same. I have now dropped it into a project and I can make any edits that I need. So this is going to become very, very handy. Obviously, this is just a couple sentences, but trust me, that time adds up. A couple other things that you can do with this email, by the way. I can choose to send this at a later date. That's my little schedule send button there, that envelope with the clock. So I can choose to send this out at a later time. Maybe I'm up at 2 a.m. and I don't want my client to know that. I can choose to send it out at 9 a.m. instead. Then, of course, we have all sorts of formatting options. I can add attachments. Maybe I have like PDFs or things that I want to send to my client. I can insert links. I can insert session links. These are scheduling links that my client can actually go to my calendar availability and say like, yep, I want to meet with you at this time, etc. So lots of stuff that we can do here. And then once I'm ready, I just click send, and this goes just to my client's email inbox as a standard email. And if she responds, they'll come right back through to this activity feed. So that is very, very simple. You will also notice that our stage automatically changed to follow up. Very handy. Okay, so we've now gotten the ball rolling with this client, and maybe we're ready to start sending some files. So those are kind of, the main documents that you're going to be sending to your clients. So we have a few different file options, and I wanted to go through them, and again, we'll actually go through creating a timeline together, but I want you to know what you have at your disposal. So I'm going to click New File here, starting bottom up, just so we understand what we got. Timelines allow you to create a day of timeline, a project timeline, an event timeline, basically anything where you need to just specify the dates and times that things are happening. Questionnaires allow you to create a set of questions, obviously, to send to your client. So this is great to use at the beginning of your relationship with them to quickly collect details about your project that maybe you don't have already, but maybe you also want to use this at the end as like more of a survey. That works too. Brochures are a super duper flexible file. They can be crafted in any number of ways. You can use these to create a mood board. You can use it to create a proofing document or a welcome kit. But at their core, they are best for showcasing your brand and your services. So what they allow you to do is actually create an interactive document through which your client can select services they're interested in and also answer any questions that you might have for them and easily submit all of that back to you. So this is a non-committal document. No one is signing, no one is paying. Again, something that is great for the beginning of a relationship with the client, for you to say, here are the services I offer, and them to say, here is what I am interested in. Then you can pick it up from there and start sending some of our more committal documents, such as these top 3. So contracts, we know these allow you to specify the nitty-gritty service information and actually collect an electronic signature from your client. They can add this from any device, and that signature is legally binding. Invoices, we know these two, specify what you're charging for. You can actually create a payment schedule so your client knows exactly what is due and when, and then you can collect payments directly through this file. HoneyBook is a payment processor. You may or may not know. So when your client gets an invoice, they can say, yep, I'm ready to make that payment, input their payment information, and that amount will drop right into the bank account you have associated with HoneyBook. And finally, proposals. These are kind of unique to HoneyBook. Now, you might have heard the term proposal in real life because that is a fairly common term. They're a little bit different in HoneyBook. In HoneyBook, what we mean when we say proposal is an all-in-one booking document. It is a combination of an invoice and a contract into one file. That is helpful because it streamlines the whole booking process for you and your client. And it's also helpful because if I send a proposal, I do not need to send an individual invoice or an individual contract. It covers everything. So that is what I want to do right now. I'd like to start creating our proposal together, since again, covers kind of the invoice and contract files in one, so we'll get that nice all-in-one tutorial. Okay. Whenever I'm creating any file in HoneyBook, I'm going to be greeted with a similar set of options to this. I can choose to start totally from scratch. I can start from a recently sent file, if there's one that's kind of similar to what I want to use now, or I can start from a template. Here are templates again. These again are things that I have saved for myself in advance in my templates section. Maybe I always know that my, basic wedding package goes with that particular contract. I can save all of that information as a template and start from that. Cool thing about starting from either of these options, recent or template, is all it does is create a copy of that recent file or that template into this project so that I can then make any edits that I need without affecting the original file or template. Real time savers, but who needs saving time when you can start from scratch? I'm going to go ahead and create a blank proposal so we can really see what this looks like all the way through. Okie dokie. Whenever I'm creating a file in HoneyBook, you're going to see a lot of similar options to this. So once you start getting comfortable with the creating file flow, you're going to notice a lot of similarities. First of all, I can always edit a file name up here in the top left corner. If I don't want my client to see that this is called the Harvest Festival proposal and I want it to be called something different, I can just click on that title and make any changes that I need. I can also edit this header if I'd like. This kind of pulls in my business name and my name automatically, but I can always remove that or change it if I'd like. And your client will just, if you remove it, they will just not see any text at all. It will just be the header image, which, by the way, I can change as well. You'll see this image icon a lot. Whenever I see it, as you might imagine, means I can change that background image, upload something totally brand new, or if I have images saved to my file library already, I can just pick a new one if I'd like. Now you move on to essentially the invoice portion of this proposal. So this is where you're going to add the items and services you're charging for and build out your payment schedule for them. So I'm going to add a couple things here. All I do, as you might imagine, again, click Add New Item to get that process started. Now, when I click that, if you've been using HoneyBook for a bit, you'll see a few things. First of all, you'll see this frequent list. These are services or items that you have used frequently in the past, so you're kind of best of, so I can really quickly draw from that if I'd like. But if I scroll down a little, I'll also see packages. This is another instance of templates coming into play. In this case, pricing package templates that I have saved for myself in advance. Basically, like sets of items that I might commonly sell together. So let's select one of these and kind of see what it looks like. I'm going to say the premium package is what this gal got. And boom, a whole bunch of stuff just got dropped into this that I did not have to manually add. Very, very handy. So you'll notice that pretty much everything in HoneyBook is clickable and editable, general rule of thumb. So even though I have added this template, I can now make changes to this. So if I'm selling this client my premium package, I go ahead and change the title of that. Maybe I don't need the general services, it's just premium package. I can change the description of that, build this out any further, or make any deletions that I need. And then I'll see the items that I have already associated with this package. This comes with a phone consult, payment management, design and inspo board, etc. A lot of things I can do here. All of these I can click and edit as well, both the titles and the descriptions. I can change or remove the images that I have already set up for these if I'd like. We see our 6-dot icon again, which means I can drag and drop, move things around. Or if I hover over something, you'll notice I can always delete it as well. So if I want to do that little trash can, I can do that too. And of course, I can change the price of this. Even though I've already saved this as a template, maybe for this gal, we're knocking the price down a little bit. So this is only going to be $6,000. So all I can do is change that. We're in the price column, and I can click to edit. Just click to edit. That is almost always what you'll have to do. You will also notice this little tax box. If I check that box, I will be able to actually edit my tax rate. So if one or all of my items that I have listed are taxable, I can just check that box and change the tax rate to whatever is most relevant. Now, of course, I added a whole package, which added a whole bunch of stuff at once. I can add individual items as well. Or if I have something entirely brand new, I can just click into that item name field. We've never saved anything like that. And if your list of items does not recognize what I typed in, I can just create a brand new guy by clicking that plus button. So you can always add new stuff on the fly if you need, and then price that out with our price fields there. Maybe they're buying 2 of these. We have a quantity fields as well. So definitely check out all the options that you have at your disposal here and build this out the way you need. You'll notice a couple other things in this total section here. I can add a discount if I want to knock $100 off because I'm a nice gal. And HoneyBook has actually just launched the ability to sell gift cards to your clients. So if your client comes to you and says, hey, I just bought a $200 gift card with you and I would like to apply that to this project, you will have a code for that gift card and you can apply that here as well to knock those $200 off. So once your set of items is ready to go, your total looks right, then you can head on to your payment schedule section. So this again is where you will detail what is due and when for your clients. You'll notice this defaults to 2 different payments, which seem to be divided equally. And in fact, if I add another payment here, maybe I want this to be a 3-payment schedule, it will continue on dividing equally down the line. If I click on the amount field, I will see why. Currently, these are set to indeed divide equally. So as many payments as I add, it will just divide it on down the line. But a couple other things I can do. Maybe this first payment is always a 20% deposit. I can do a percentage instead. Instead of myself needing to do the math, I say 20%. And that first payment will adjust to 20% of the total. These two, still set to divide equally, will divide the remainder. Or of course, a custom amount if the deposit is always $1,500, kind of flat rate. I can do that as well. You can set this up however you need with those dynamic options or with that custom amount. Similarly, the when field, the due dates, can be dynamic. So if I click on any of those fields, I'll notice a lot of different options. So maybe, payment 1, I actually want due the date that I send this invoice out. So today, right, it would pull in whatever date I send it. So you'll notice it pulled in today's date. Payment number 2, a couple options here. I can choose a project date, a fixed date, so that's kind of like a static date. This one I actually want midway, halfway between when I send this invoice and when the project is set to occur. So I'm going to say midway, and it'll automatically calculate that date for me. And then for our final payment, again, I can do a lot of things here. I choose to do a custom date, which allows me to select any number of days, weeks, or months, or maybe 2 weeks, before or after the project date occurs, or after the invoice itself has been sent. So I'm going to say that the last payment is due 2 weeks before the project date. It seems reasonable. And it will automatically calculate that date for me. So that is the gist of the payment schedule. Not a lot of calculations needed on your part because so many of these are dynamic, which is very, very handy. And you've now completed the invoice portion of this proposal, which also means you know how to create a standalone invoice. Good job. But this is a proposal, so this also includes a contract. So if I scroll down, I will see that as well. Now, I'm not going to go through all the nitty-gritty of creating a contract because we're going to go through that a little bit when we look at templates, but I do want to call out these little dotted lines here, which clearly have pulled in information that I did not have to add myself. And that is because we have set these up as contract fields, in this case, to dynamically pull in information from the project or from the client info. And we'll show you how to do that in a sec. But it is very handy if I know that I want to always include my client's name and email and some project details. Instead of me needing to manually fill it out every single time I send a contract, I can set it up to dynamically do that. In this case, I've also set one up for me to fill out, make sure that I, maybe it's something we're not always sure of. I can fill this out myself before I send the contract. Now, I'm going to scroll all the way down here. At the very bottom of your contract, you will see 2 automatically added signature lines. Well, you can't see the lines right now. There you go. One for me as the project owner and one for my initial participant, whoever I added first. Now, if I had added additional participants as well, maybe I had added Leslie's partner, Ben, as a participant to this project, I can add him as a signatory too, or I can add him as the only signatory. However, someone does need to be a participant in the project in order to sign the contract. Now, before you send this, I'm going to aggressively point out this teeny tiny little tab on the left side of the screen. You will see this a lot in HoneyBook. Always keep an eye out for it and click it when you do see it, because there's always something under there. In this case, in the case of proposals, you will see that I can choose, maybe I was like, I kind of want to start from a different template, kind of want to start over. No problem, I can choose from my list of proposal templates here. Or if I really liked what I just created, I can just save that this guy as a new template right off the bat. But you'll also see this options tab. This is particularly important when you're sending a file with payments associated. Of course, I can use this to print my file if I'd like, but this is also where I can turn on gratuity if I'd like my client to be able to add a tip. I can choose how my client can pay. So through HoneyBook, they're able to pay via credit card or bank transfer. In this case, I'm giving them the option, but I can also select one or the other if I'd rather. I can choose to toggle auto pay on, which means as soon as my client adds their payment information, whenever that next payment due date comes up, we'll automatically pull those funds. Don't worry, they do have to opt into this, so they won't be surprised. And I can also expire this file at a certain point, which would just mean that my client would no longer be able to sign or make payments on it, just kind of making sure that they attend to it in a timely manner. So once this is all set up, before I send it, I can always review what my client will see. You'll see this client view button whenever I send any file. So clicking that will allow me to go through the invoice portion, see what that looks like for them. This is exactly what my client will see. I can continue on to the contract and even continue on to the payment screen to see what they'll see there. So you can always check that out before you send. Everything looks good though, so I'm going to go ahead and click next, which allows me to review the email that's going out with this file. So every HoneyBook file needs to go out with an email. This kind of pulls in a default email that's associated with proposals, but again, I can always edit on the fly or select a different email template if I'd like. Similar to our activity feed, I can schedule this to go out at a later date, and all of our formatting options are here for you as well. Everything looks good though, so I'm going to go ahead and send this, and this is going to go right to Leslie's email inbox with a big button that says View Proposal, which she can click, again, from any device to sign or pay. Now here in our activity feed, you'll see it tracked, very handy, so you'll always know that you sent it. You'll notice our stage changed to Proposal Sent. Now I want to point out a couple other bits of our workspace that will have adjusted themselves a little bit. Our Files tab will now have a file in it. Whenever you draft or send a file, I can do really quick finding of that just for my Files tab, instead of needing to scroll through my activity feed, be like, yep, I sent this proposal, or maybe I just drafted this guy and haven't sent it yet. And since I sent a file with payments associated, my Payments tab will now really quickly show me the status of all of those. So once this first payment comes in, this status will change to paid or pending, depending on the method. And if I hover over it, or I think maybe it even shows up here in the empty column, it'll tell you the estimated deposit date. So if you're like, where the heck is my payment? Why isn't it in my bank account yet? You can always check out when it's estimated to show up there. Okay. We have now been through creating a project, the files that we can send, and then actually sending a proposal together. And something that we saw come up a lot through all of this were those templates. So that is what I want to look at right now. So to get to my main template section, I'm going to click my Tools tab up here in the top and Templates. Now, once again, templates allow you to create the framework for various elements of your account, like certain file types, email language, pricing packages, etc. And once you have these templates created, as we saw, you can quickly apply them to projects and work off of that framework instead of needing to start completely from scratch every time you send something. So the templates that are available to you, you'll notice basically all of our file types I can create templates for. Your gift cards you can create here, your pricing packages you can create here, your email language you can create here, all sorts of stuff. So definitely review this section and create templates where necessary for you. Now, a best practice, if you're kind of at the beginning of your HoneyBook run and you're starting from scratch, begin by creating pricing package templates. The reason for that is what you're doing in creating these is building the structure of your pricing. And each of the packages you create serves as basically just a building block to use to create other things. So once I have pricing package templates in place, I can use those to really quickly build out invoices, proposals, brochures, both in template form or on-the-fly files. So you always want to start by creating your packages first and then building out your other templates. So that's what I want to do right now. I want to create a really simple package template and then use that to create an invoice template so we see what that's like. Okay, so I clicked into my package template section. Again, you'll see this teeny little file drawer tab. In the case of templates, that is where you will find any existing templates that you have, anything you've already created, and you'll find the option to add a brand new one. So I'm going to click Add Template here. Now, the first thing you always want to do when creating a template is name it. Similar to files, all I need to do is click the title up at the top. Maybe this is our basic package invoice. The reason you always want to name your templates is because you might have noticed when I look at templates when I'm applying them to stuff, I just see a big long list of things. So if I have a million untitled package templates, I won't know what that is. So I want to make sure that I name it always. Now I can build this out with whatever services are associated with this package. Really similar to building out our items within the invoice or the proposal that we saw. So I can add, click anywhere to edit. I can add descriptions. And then I can build out the services that are associated with this package. So maybe our basic package invoice comes with a consult call. I can click add new item to add a few more. Maybe it comes with like 4 hours of service. And maybe one more, we'll do like a follow-up. Very basic. Once again, similar to our invoices, I can add images here just by clicking that little picture icon. I can click my item description to add in descriptions here. And my 6-dot icon can be used to drag and drop things. And of course, my trash can if anything needs to get deleted. Now, we added a few separate services to this basic package. We're going to charge for this as a whole. And as we do that, we just click our price at the very top. So on the package level, and maybe this is $3,000. So that way I don't need to price these out individually. I can if I'd rather, if I want to do, consult calls $100, 4 hours of service is $2,500, follow-up calls $100. In that case, I would do that individually and keep this price at the top as 0. Otherwise, if I do both, it will double the cost for my client and they will probably not like it. Now, even if your packages don't include lots of services or you just don't feel like doing that, that is totally fine too. I can always come in and remove all of these individual services and kind of just do standalones. That absolutely works, whatever suits your business. Now, with any template, you will see changes automatically saved. So I'm now ready to use this package template to create an invoice. So to do that, I'm going to head back to my template section. And this time, click our Invoices tab. Now, once again, we will see this teeny little file drawer tab on the left side of the screen, which if I click, I will see any existing invoices that I have and the option to add a new one. So I'm going to click Add Template. Once again, we want to make sure we name it. So maybe this is our basic package invoice. Again, a lot is going to look really familiar. We were just looking at proposals that had very similar stuff to this. So for example, I can change this header if I'd like. I can just kind of scroll through my library with my left and right arrows, or click the image icon to upload something new, or pick a new image from my library. And then again, going to look really familiar. All I have to do to build this out is click Add New Item. And in this case, I want to find that package that I just created. So I'm going to do a quick search for this. Spelling it right would be helpful. And there we go. That is the package that I just created, which I can now just drop into this invoice. Of course, I can make any edits that I need specific to this invoice template. Maybe now that it's here, I want to add a description. That works too, and this will not affect that original package template, right? Whenever I apply a template to something else, it's just creating a copy. So I can build this out however I need, this invoice template. I can add individual items or other packages. I can change the tax rate, add a discount that I always know is coming in, whatever I need to do. And then our payment schedule, of course, since so many of these options are dynamic, like if I keep it at kind of as is with the two payments dividing equally, and then these two payment due dates associated with like when the invoice is sent and when the project date is occurring, whenever I apply this template as is to a project, it will just automatically calculate all of this stuff for me. Even if I apply this and then I add $2,000 worth of services to a particular project on this invoice, these amounts set to divide equally will just automatically recalculate whatever those amounts are. And the due dates will automatically pull in based on when you're sending that invoice and when you set up the project date for. So this dynamic stuff that you can do in the templates is really, really helpful. Of course, you're always going to want to make sure that you review it before you send, make sure everything looks good, but I don't need to worry about calculating amounts and calculating due dates every time. If I know that my payment schedule is like pretty much the same, it's always a month after the invoice, first payment's due, final payment's due on the project date, I just set this up like this, throw it into a project. So the final template that I want to look at are your contract templates. So I'm going to click back to our template section here and now head into contracts. So once again, we click our file drawer tab and click add template to create a new one. But I kind of just want to work off this guy here. Now, our contract editor is pretty much kind of a standard word processor for the most part. So that means that I can copy and paste stuff in here, any contract language that I've used in the past, just throw it on in, and then use my formatting bar up at the top, which will look very familiar for the most part, to make sure that I can center, bold, whatever I want to do. The thing that I mostly wanted to call out with this are those contract templates or those contract fields. Now these guys are the ones that automatically pulls in information about my client, about the project, so that I didn't need to do that every time I applied this contract template to a project. So they can do that. They can dynamically pull in information, or I can actually use these fields to request or require information from my clients. So maybe I want to make sure that they initial a section after reading it. I can use these fields to do that too. So I'm going to create one of each, one that dynamically pulls in info and one that we are requiring our client to fill out. So let's say that the one that we want to dynamically pull in is just the project date. And from our client, we need to make sure that we get the client's dog's name, relevant to all projects at all times, I'm sure. Okay, so we've added our little descriptors, helpful, not required. I have my cursor where I want my field to go, and I'm going to head up to our formatting bar up here at the top. Now, of these little kind of grayer buttons, the one on the left, if I hover over it, it says Field Options. That is the button I want to click. So this little guy here. Clicking that adds a contract field from which I can choose how I want to set this up. So in the case of project date, I'm going to click this field name section, and you'll notice a whole bunch of stuff under this pull field info from header. Everything that I see under here is information that can be pulled dynamically from certain places in your account. So we have all sorts of project information we can pull in, client information we can fill in, payment information we can fill in. So scroll through this list and see what makes sense for your contract, because this might save you a lot of time of nitty-gritty kind of details before sending contracts in the future. Now in this case, I just want the project date. So there it is there. Of course, I can also search for something if I'm not sure where it is to pull up a list. So now we know it will pull in the project date from my details. Field value, we will leave blank. We don't know what this project date is yet. If I fill this in now, it will be there. I don't need it to be there yet. I need it to be there later. So we're going to leave this blank so that it can dynamically fill in. And then how our client can interact with this. I don't really need them to at all. I'm going to say that they can't edit and save. However, for their dog's name, I do need them to edit this. In fact, I want to make sure that they do before they're even able to sign. So I'm going to do the same thing, click our field options button to add a field. Now in this case, our field name doesn't need to pull from anywhere, right? We need our client to fill this out. So the field name can be anything at all. I'm going to say dog's name and click the plus button to add that custom field. Field value, again, we'll leave blank. We don't know that dog's name yet. Our client will fill this out later. And then how they can interact with this. I can choose that they can edit, which would give them the option, or that they must fill. Must fill would ensure that they fill this information out before they sign it. If they tried to sign the contract before filling this information out, the contract will say nope, and it will bop them back up to wherever that field is and make sure they fill it out. So particularly relevant for things like initialing a section or actual information that you need, or maybe dog's name is really important. I don't know your business. Now at the very bottom of this contract template, I'm scrolling to illustrate that we're at the bottom. What you will not see are those contract signature lines. That is on purpose. This is just a template. We don't know who's signing this yet. So don't freak out that they're not on the template level. Once you apply this to a project, that is when those lines will get automatically pulled in. Okay, I want to make sure we have a couple minutes to go through just your general kind of account settings. But if you do have any questions, feel free to start posting those in the chat box so that our last 5 minutes or so we can get through anything you got. All right, so to get to my settings, once again, I click my profile picture in the top right corner of most HoneyBook screens. And I'm going to start with my account for some basic stuff. Now here is where I can change my avatar, which shows up in some of the files that I send, can change my name, email, etc. And very importantly, where I can change my password and my security phone number. So this is where you can do that if you ever need to. Security phone number, double check that this is in here and that it is a number you have access to, because if you ever need to make sensitive account changes like your password or like your bank account, this is the number that we are going to call or text with a code to make sure that it is indeed you making those changes, just a level of security. Okay, so that's pretty much it in my account. In your company settings, if you're the company owner, I'm going to click on Company tab here. Same place I'd get to, by the way, by clicking my profile picture in Company Settings. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I want to go through a couple important ones. So your Company Brand tab is where you can change things like your company name, that ever changes, but also very importantly, your brand elements. This is where I can upload things like my logos. Now you might have noticed that these automatically got pulled into various files we created. So I can do a main logo and a secondary logo, and also choose a button color. This kind of just ties everything together. This is the button color your clients will see on the files you send them. So just make sure that your whole aesthetic looks the way you want it to look. You might have also noticed that this guy, this image here, got pulled in automatically whenever I created a file or a project. That's because I had it set as a default header image. So if there's one that I use most frequently, I can just click that button there to either upload something brand new or choose a different image from my image library. I'm going to skip down to integrations to quickly talk about the fact that you can integrate with your Gmail address if you have one. What this does is allow any emails that you send through HoneyBook, like through that activity feed of a project, to appear to your client as though they're coming from your name and your business Gmail account. If you do not have a Gmail, or if you don't want to do that, totally fine. HoneyBook works in almost exactly the same way. Sending emails through project activity feeds in that case will appear to your client as still coming from your name and your business. The sender will just be minman@honeybook.com. Now we have a few other integrations you can set up here, so definitely come in, check out this integration section, scroll all the way down, see what makes sense for you. Down to your team tab. If you have other folks on your team that you would like to access your HoneyBook account, just click that invite button fill in their contact info, and then you can also choose what level of permissions you'd like them to have within your HoneyBook account, which are detailed here. So you can add as many folks to your team as you need. Next down, your preferences tab. A lot of important stuff here, so definitely come and check this out. Even if you don't think it's relevant to you, do it anyway. This, for example, is where you can go to quickly update your lead sources, your project types, like we saw when we were creating projects, and also your project details. So this means that I can actually create custom fields within my projects. If I always know that I want to know, the client's mom's name, I can add that as a project detail field so that I always know to fill it out or have them fill it out. And similarly, I can edit my lead sources or project types, delete the ones that I don't need, or add new ones. Notifications, just check these out, make sure they're set up the way you want. And then your actions and payment reminders. Both of these are automated emails that your clients will get through HoneyBook. So definitely check these out. Sometimes people are like, my clients are getting emails from me, I didn't send them. First thing you're going to want to check is if any of these are turned on. So for example, in the actions, I can choose to always send a questionnaire 2 weeks before a project. Or very popularly, I can choose to turn on automatic payment reminders. So if I want to make sure that my client does not forget that a payment is coming up in a week, or if they have forgotten to make a payment, or maybe it is due on that exact day, I can choose to turn on all of these, some of them, and then customize the language that goes out with them as well. These are really, really handy. Definitely decrease the number of missed payments in your account. However, if you want full control over everything, you can always come in and turn all of these off. And finally, last but definitely not least, your bank details. This is where you will add your bank account information. I can do a business one or a personal one. There is quite a bit of information that's required for this. Sorry, it's not HoneyBook that is making us do that. It is a new sort of federal request. So all the information that is requested there is for a good reason, for your security. But once that's filled out, any payments that you get through HoneyBook will automatically drop into this bank account. Now, before I get to any questions, I see at least one has come in. I want to point out one small but mighty button, this question mark icon in the bottom right corner. This is your best friend as you are getting to know HoneyBook in particular. This is where it can get to those other product webinars that I mentioned. So if I want to sign up for any of my HB 102s, those are all here for me to check out and sign up just by clicking that product webinars button. This is also how I get to my help center, which has articles and videos on almost every feature, walkthroughs on everything you need. So definitely check that out. If you don't find the answer you need though, just click that message us button. This is how you get in touch with our support team. You can chat with them just by clicking send us a message. They are available 7 days a week, Memorial Day aside, 7 days a week at the hours that are usually listed up here. So you can always get a quick answer from them. Okay, any questions that have come in? I see one, so definitely let me know if there's anything else that you guys have questions on in the meantime. But Beverly asks, how do we set up the inquiries from our website to populate into HoneyBook? Great question, and that is where your contact form comes in. So again, we can't go over this in 5 minutes, but we do have an HB 102 webinar specifically on contact forms. So definitely check that out or check out our help center. But the gist is from your tools tab, your contact form section. If my internet works with me here, that'd be great. It's giving me a little bit of a hard time, but I'd go to my contact form where I can request the specific information that I need. So maybe I need their name, their email, what type of project they're interested in, etc. And then once I have that contact form created, I can either embed that directly onto my website using a code that we provide, or I can just send out like a link to it. So if I have a website that maybe I'm not able to embed stuff, I can just have like a button basically that links out to this contact form that just pops open in a different tab and your client can fill all that information out. Anyone who is submitting information through that contact form, whether it's been embedded on your website or you've sent out that direct link, will automatically populate in the projects tab here. So that is how you will get stuff automatically coming into HoneyBook. All right, sounds like it's pretty quiet. So I will take this opportunity to remind you of your question mark. I know I just said it. It is so, so important. Again, it is how you get to the other product webinars we have, how to get to your help center, which has information on everything, and how to get in touch with our wildly helpful support team with that message us button. All right, guys, I think we'll call it there. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this was helpful. And again, feel free to reach out to us using that question mark icon to get in touch with our support team. They are very helpful on all HoneyBook matters. All right, hope everyone is staying healthy and safe. I know these are weird times. We are here to support you through them on a personal level and especially a business level. So hope everything's going okay for everyone, and definitely reach out if anything comes up. All right, guys, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.